Hey guys, welcome back to Francesca's Books. My name is Francesca, these are my books, and here we talk all things thriller books. And today I have a very exciting video. This is the mid-year bookish freakout tag. This basically means which are my favourite, which are my least favourite, which are my most surprising, which are my most disappointing books, like the lot on the first 6 months of 2024. I saw Hayley do this tag, who's one of my absolute favourite thriller booktubers, so definitely go and subscribe to her channel as well if you aren't already. And I just thought, I can't resist. So this is kind of like the first half of 2024's reading wrapped, which I am really excited to do. So without further ado, the first question is, which is my favourite book of the year so far? And because I'm so nice to you, I'm going to share a few. So one of my ultimate favourite books of this year so far, which I don't think I give enough love, but really loved, was The Quiet Tenant. So this follows a small town family man who has a job like in the local village, and it turns out he's had a woman locked in his shed for the last 5 years. It's also told from the woman in the shed's point of view as well, so you understand like what's gone on from her perspective, and then later it's also told from his daughter's perspective as well, so you get like a very well-rounded view of what's happening. If you've ever read The Last Thing to Burn by Will Dean, I feel like this is what that book was trying to do, and this book just did it incredibly. This is everything that I was looking for in an escape story. This is very much a character-driven book, and as well, the author of this, English isn't even her first language, like it's not even her native language, and she's managed to write a book so incredible it is ranking in my top 5 books of 2024 so far, so honestly, hats off to her. Incredible. I actually did give it a full 0.5 though, and the only reason it just slipped that 5-star mark is because I just wanted so much more from the ending of this book. Another favourite of 2024 so far is The Couple at Number 9 by Claire Douglas, and this is actually her most popular book, so I don't know why it's taken me this long to pick it up, but I loved it. This has literally just everything you could want from a thriller book. So it follows a couple who move in to a new house and they find 2 bodies in the garden while they're trying to like do up the garden, like restore it, and everything just kind of goes from there. It's told from the wife in that couple's point of view, and also her mum and her grandma. It's like a bit of a, I don't know, generational story, and they all have their own little side plots as well, so it is absolutely brilliant. Oh, and there's also a little romantic subplot, which we love. You know me, if there's a little romantic subplot in a thriller book, it's just a winner. Like, I'm just a sucker for it. The actual twists as well were brilliant, the atmosphere was brilliant, and yeah, I can't recommend this one enough. Then if you've watched any of my other videos this year, like any of them, you will know my favourite book of this year so far is I Let You Go by Claire Mackintosh. This book was so amazing that I've literally just gone on to read Claire Mackintosh's backlist over the last few months basically, but this one is still my favourite. It follows Jenna, who witnesses her son being unalived in a hit and run, and she goes to like the Welsh coast to try and like seek some peace. Like, she's absolutely traumatised. Meanwhile, the police in Bristol continue to like investigate what's happened, so it's told from both of those points of view, and the detectives in this story are so well written, and because of that I just now trust Claire Mackintosh with my life and everything I read. Another book that I absolutely loved in the first 6 months of 2024, but I will just caveat by saying definitely check the trigger warnings on this. It is The Echo Man by Sam Holland, and the reason I say to check the trigger warnings is because this follows a serial unaliver who goes around copying all the MOs of the most famous serial unalivers ever. So as you can imagine, there is every triggering topic possible in this book. And the story starts when our main character Jess's husband is one of the victims of this serial unaliver, and everything just kind of goes from there. It's told from Jess's point of view and also from the detective's point of view as well, but again, super well written in this book. I feel like this just has everything that you would want and expect from a really good thriller book, and I gave it a 4.5. There was something a tiny bit off for me, which wasn't like an immediate 5-star, but it's still one of the best books I've read this year. And then finally, to round off to a nice number of my 5 favourite books so far this year, is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, and I rated this 5 stars. So this follows Maggie, who returns to her abandoned home, I think 25 years later, after the family have fled due to the father's account of paranormal activities in the property. But it's like a big hall building, like very creepy, very eerie, and our main character Maggie wants to unveil the truth on whether there is any paranormal goings on here or whether everything was just made up. This was super creepy and super intense. Like, maybe save this one for October. This would have been like the perfect Halloween read, like just so eerie and spooky, and yeah, but also really well written as well. I was absolutely gripped, and I genuinely did start looking over my shoulder a little bit, which I feel like is quite hard for a thriller author to do in a book. I feel like with TV shows and movies, like horror is easier to like build that suspense because you have like the sound aspects as well and almost like the lighting aspects, but with a book, like you are words on a page. If that can get me to look over my shoulder, incredible. So the next question is my worst book of the year so far, and it is, I feel awful talking about worst books, but it is The Chalk Man by CJ Tudor. I just didn't get this book. I don't know what it was. I just didn't get it. So it's told in a dual timeline from the 80s and in 2016, I believe, from Eddie's point of view, and the previous point of view is like his friends draw these like chalk figures on their driveways, like when they want to meet up, and they all have a specific colour. And then in 2016, these drawings start appearing again, but like none of the other people that he's friends with are around, so he thinks it's like really spooky. And honestly, I just feel like this was a bit of a nothing concept. Like I wanted creepy, I wanted vibes, and all I just got was kind of like really basic drama. I don't think the actual writing, like the actual sentences, it was quite easy to read in that aspect, and that's probably why I didn't DNF it. But the actual story, just still don't even really know what happened. Like I don't know, I just don't, just not for me. Not for me. So next up is the best sequel that I read in 2024, and without a doubt it is Game of Lies by Claire Mackintosh. I read The Last Party by this author earlier this year and absolutely loved it. This follows like our lead detective DC Morgan. She's Welsh but works like very close to the English border, so there is a lot of cases that overlap with like the Cheshire team, and she meets one of the Cheshire detectives and they kind of like work on this case together, and I absolutely loved it. So when Game of Lies came out, I was like, I need this in my life. The characters are incredible, and the story was actually like a reality TV show survival type story, which I was also really interested in as well. And it was just, yeah, it was brilliant. I'm not gonna lie, Claire Mackintosh, you just have my heart. So I gave both of these books a 4-star. I read them both in 2024 and would definitely recommend them. So next up is a new release in 2024 that I want to read that is already out, and that is Five Nights by Rachel Wolf. This was published in February and I've still not managed to get to it. So this follows two estranged best friends who reunite on a cruise ship, just want to have like the best time of their life. I think it's like a small luxury cruise ship type of situation, and of course things start to happen, secrets start to be revealed, things start to go wrong, probably people are unalived. But yeah, I love this cover, and I also loved The Last Passenger by Will Dean, so I feel like this is the vibe that I want to go for now. So next up is my biggest disappointment of 2024, and I don't know why I'm so excited to say that. But this book needs to be talked about because it really did disappoint me, and it was The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. And this was so disappointing, one, because I'm going to tell you about what it's about in a minute, but two, because I loved The Paris Apartment, so I thought I would really like this author. This is the only book that I have read by this author, The Paris Apartment, so I did think maybe, you know, sometimes like it can be a one-off. But yeah, The Midnight Feast was not a winner for me. So this follows Francesca, probably why I was so drawn to it, and she opens this like luxury manor with these like little cottages, and they have a midnight feast to like celebrate opening night and like all the guests being there, until it just gets so weird. Like everybody is just like running around like really like, I don't know, high or whatever, and then the main manor itself sets alight. But all that drama happens within like 20 pages, like probably closer to the end of the book, even though it's in the synopsis, and it was just so dry up until that point. And it also had 5 points of view, 3 timelines, like you almost couldn't keep up, but at the same time nothing happened. This book was just not for me. Just absolutely not for me. I gave it 2 stars, but honestly I feel like that's probably generous. So next up with my biggest surprise of the year was The Institution by Helen Fields, and I actually started listening to this on audio and loved it so much at the start that I picked up the physical copy to finish it. So this follows a forensic profiler that goes undercover in like a locked institution to try and find a missing baby. And half the reason I switched to paperback as well, because it gave you like this little map so you could like better understand like what was going on and like where everything was, and I just love that from a thriller book. This was just such a surprise because like the cover's quite generic, and I don't know, I'd seen it quite a lot over Booktube and Book Talk, and then I don't know what made me just start listening to the audio, and I just absolutely loved it. I really recommend it, and I'm actually definitely going to read the next couple of books that are in this series, because this is actually not just a standalone. Apparently the forensic profiler forensically profiles other stories as well. The next question is my new favourite author that I've discovered this year, and if you cannot guess from this video, then no kudos to you. Of course it is Claire Mackintosh. She has written some incredible books, and I only read I Let You Go at the start of this year, like January time. So the fact that I've discovered her in 2024 having such a big backlist is just like an absolute miracle to me. I've now read all of her books apart from Let Me Lie, which I have here. Here's one I prepared earlier. This is the only Claire Mackintosh that I haven't read yet, and of course this will be being read soon, obviously. Then the next question is the most beautiful cover of a book I've read this year, and I had mixed feelings about this book, the actual content itself, but the cover, you cannot deny. Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead has the most gorgeous cover ever. I don't know whether it's just me, but I loved this. The actual book itself wasn't really a thriller, even though it was marketed as one. It was more of like a gothic romance, which I did enjoy, but also wanted a thriller. So I just couldn't rate it that highly, but I did really like it. And yeah, this cover. And the next question is quite generic. It is, what do you need to read by the end of 2024? So I've picked a couple of books off my TBR shelf, which is all of these, and decided I am 100% going to read these books this year. The first one is Blood Orange by Harriet Tice, and this is like a bit of a staple in the like popcorn thriller genre. I see this everywhere and I've still never read it, and I feel like I'm doing a disservice not to read it and let you guys know what I think. So this follows a woman who's a lawyer and she supposedly has it all, but deep down she's actually just a bit of a mess. And then I think she goes on to represent a client like with similar issues, and it brings everything to the surface of like things she probably should deal with, but I'm not 100% sure. That's the vibe I got from reading the synopsis anyway. And then finally, Here to Stay by Mark Edwards has been on my radar for a very long time. It is also on Kindle Unlimited, but I managed to pick up a physical copy as well, so I need to read this year. It follows a married couple and her parents come to stay with them for like a couple of weeks as a bit of a favour, and then I think it's just like they kind of just never leave. So with this, her new husband decides he's going to take matters into his own hands, dig a bit into their past, and find a reason for them to have to leave. There probably is more to it than that, but that is what I got just from general people talking about this book, and I know that it's good because this author is brilliant. So there you go, a little bit of a wrap up of the last 6 months, what I've read, my favourites, my least favourites, the ones I was most surprised with, etc. So I am so happy to share all those with you. Let me know what your favourite books have been of 2024 so far, because I always want to add more books to my TBR, even though I've just said I need to reduce my TBR. I mean, are you a book girl? You get it. If you want to see my top 10 thrillers of all time, I will link the little card thing here for you to click on and go and watch. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I cannot wait to see you next time.